While European and American literature are full of stories of captives held in the Barbary states, there are no first person accounts of Moors held as captives in Europe. And yet, there were thousands of Moors taken captive by European powers. According to Matar, their stories do not survive because very few of them return to their native lands. In this fourth chapter, Moors in British Captivity, Matar recovers what he can of the stories of Moorish captives. He also notes the different kinds of captivity in Barbary. A slave, Abid, was purchased, while a captive, Asir, was held for ransom. Slavery, Ubaidiya, and captivity, Asr, were different institutions. All of the North African states were engaged in the trans Saharan slave trade, as well as trade in gold and other goods. The capture of European sailors was a different facet of the economy. Page 114 to 115. For Matar, though the real focus of this chapter is on the European enslavement of Moors, Europeans did not differentiate between the status of their captives. Raids by European powers in retaliation for the piracy of Morocco or Algiers and the bombardment of the North African cities were among the factors, he argues, in the economic and political decline of these polities in the 18th century. Interesting. So he's establishing, he just said a whole lot of stuff though. So I got to marinate on that for a second.
But you know, there's plenty of records about the Moors coming with the Spanish and Portuguese in the Americas. A lot of it's not written in English, but in the Spanish and the Portuguese archives, they talk about the Moriscos and the Moros and or free people of color that came. What's his name? Not the Estebanico. That's one notable one, but the other one, the Garrido, Juan Garrido. Juan
Mm.
Garrido, he's one of the early Moors that came with him, and it was down there taking over Mexico and all that stuff, all them states down there. So you had Estebanico, you had Juan Garrido, you had a whole bunch of them dudes that was with the Spanish that was free actually. I mean, Estebanico, they enslaved him. It's from Morocco, but Juan Garrido was free. He wasn't a slave. And then you had a whole bunch of other ones. A lot of times, what happens in America, we don't look into the Spanish and Portuguese archives where you translate it, it'll be to more, that'll be, yeah, there was free Moors and they had land. All those guys who came with the Spanish, they were given land in Mexico, in the islands and all that. And their families would be free people of color. But what happens is the narrative generalizes everybody, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point because as we continue to do these shows, we're definitely going to get into the aspect of indigenous America, Aboriginal indigenous America, because a lot of voices, I call them the followers of Dane Calloway, they